there's going to be fewer and fewer teachers wanting to enter a system like this. And the whole system, students, everybody else, are going to suffer. It's sad.
Can you just repeat that fact about your son? I really... you had said
my son, who is still in high school, works at a candy store, and he can make as much money as some of the teachers make teaching college courses. Just working part-time at the candy store without any degree. It's just doesn't seem right.
So, do you have more than one job?
Yes, I have a daughter who's a senior in college.
So does all the...
I'll tell you something.
Go ahead.
My daughter, who's a senior in college, is wondering, considering what she's going to do after college. And one of the things she's considering is becoming a teacher. And I told her this year, okay, teaching is a very good, respectable thing to do. It's a wonderful thing to do because you're really having an impact on the future. But if you pursue teaching, don't try to pursue college level teaching. Become an elementary school or a high school teacher. At least you'll have a real job then, and you won't be wondering what's happening semester to semester.
Do you have another job?
Well, I consider, even though I only get $100 a year for it, I consider the legislature, I'm a state rep, my other job. Because when we're in session, that can take 20 hours a week to perform my duties as a state representative. That's one of the reasons I like teaching, because I can be a part-time teacher and a part-time legislator. But if it wasn't for my wife having a real job with real benefits, this would never work.
Well, why do you continue to teach if things are so terrible?
I made a decision years ago that I wanted to pursue teaching. It's worthwhile when I'm actually standing up in front of the class teaching and talking with the students, and that's the payoff. The time when I'm, as I say, actually in the classroom interacting with the students. I love it. Reading 20 research papers and grading them during the course of a long weekend, I sometimes wonder whether it's a wise choice. But again, if we had a fair contract and we're receiving fair pay, it would be fine. It's a simple thing to ask for. Equal pay for equal work.
So we recently had a lobby day, and Craig Longa and I spoke with the president of Great Bay, and we asked him about those raises. He himself received a $11,000 or $12,000 raise, I believe. His response was, "We're the lowest paid administrators in the country. We can't expect to," and I quote, "pay everybody. We can't expect to run a farm if we can't feed the chickens and all the mice." It was a poor analogy for adjuncts and
so are we the mice?
I guess I think so, but basically he's saying we can't afford to pay adjuncts if we can't pay ourselves first. I'm wondering what your reaction is to that, because this is a president of a college, and I'm a resident in Portsmouth, and that was personally offending to me.
Well, when I hear administrators, college presidents saying that somehow they deserve the raise, to take them from 100,000 to 110 or 20 or 30,000 more than we, the adjunct professors, deserve a raise. I'm to give you, it's just wrong, because we're the troops. We're the ones actually doing the teaching, actually delivering the educational goods to the students. The students don't really care whether their college president is getting 100 grand or 150 grand. That is not a factor. I think presidents should get more than teachers. They have the responsibility. But do I think they should get 10 or 20 times more than teachers? No. The system is very lopsided, with the people who never step foot in a classroom getting vastly more than the people who do the teaching.
So let's talk about equity, where the president of Great Bay does not understand the concept of what true equity amongst a community means. What does a fair contract for adjunct faculty look like?
A fair contract for the adjunct professors would have higher pay. Pay is very low. Has not been increased for years. It would recognize that we're an important part of the college that we teach at. It would consider us as an actual employee of the system. Right now, this is another new thing that the system administration has come up with. The people who do most of the teaching, the adjunct professors, are not considered to be employees of the college where they teach. And we're not able to be considered even when the rare full-time teaching job becomes available. We're no longer internal candidates, and for years that's the way it was. We were internal candidates. It made perfect sense because we knew the courses being taught at the college, we knew the student body. Everybody, the whole college, benefited from hiring from within. Now, as someone who's been teaching there for years, I'm not even considered an internal candidate. This would cost the system nothing to reinstitute that policy, but yet they've thrown that helpful policy out the window. It just seems so counterproductive.
So if there was a message you could send to the Board of Trustees, what would it be?
Well, to the Board of Trustees, I would say we are part of the system. That your adjunct faculty are a vital part of what makes the community college system work. And we deserve to be treated with respect and fairness, and to be given a living wage. It's not too much to ask for people with advanced degrees who are doing their very best, working very hard, long hours outside the classroom, educating your students, that you should treat your adjunct faculty with the respect that they deserve, so we can feel, yeah, okay, they value us. We're going to put that back into our classrooms and do an even better job of teaching our students.
Why should they listen to you?
Long term, if the system keeps doing what it's doing in the way they undervalue and not treat their faculty fairly, there's going to be less and less teachers like me sticking around, and they're just going to be having to deal with more and more newcomers as teachers who don't know the school, don't know the courses. They'll teach for a semester or two, and then they'll say, "Oh, this job isn't worth it," and they'll leave. And you're just going to have a revolving door of dissatisfied teachers who ultimately it's going to impact the students in a negative way.
What would you say if Ross Gattell and Sarah Sawyer were here? What would you say to them?
I would say to Chancellor Gattell and Sarah Sawyer, who's...
Sorry, just one more time.
Okay.
There we go.
I would say to Professor Gattell and Sarah Sawyer, excuse me, did I say Professor Gattell?
Technically he's a professor, right?
Well,
Chancellor, okay.
Yeah. I would say to Chancellor Gattell and Sarah Sawyer, who's head of Human Resources, that I and every other adjunct faculty I know want to do a good job in the classroom and to teach our students to the best of our abilities. But we need your support and your respect to help us feel that we're valued. And you can show that respect and fairness by coming to terms with, finally, after 2+ years, a contract for the adjunct faculty, a fair contract, and we can all work together as a team, which is how it should be.
Well, what if they were to say, I'm sorry, the reason we employ adjunct professors is to keep costs down for students and to keep the system running. So we can't afford to pay you what you want.
If they say they can't afford to pay us, I would say, well, you just voted to give yourselves huge raises. And that was when the state had cut funding by millions. The state has just drastically increased funding for the system. So there is money available to raise the pay for adjuncts, and I would hope you do the decent thing and raise our pay and give us a fair contract.
If there's a message you could send to your colleagues who are sitting on the sidelines wondering what to do, what would you say to them?
Speak up, get active. It's individually, it's hard to have any effect, but if we unite and do things as a union, we can have an influence. The community college system depends on every one of us to teach the students. If the secretary doesn't show up, if a maintenance man doesn't show up, if the accountant doesn't show up for a day, it's no big thing. If a teacher doesn't show up to teach their class, that has a big impact because suddenly 20 students are left with nothing to do. We're an integral part of this education system, and